Hello, this is Bill the Geek, and now we're going to cover shape tools in Adobe Illustrator 2020. Let's take a look at what we're talking about here. There are some standard shapes, geometric shapes that we're going to work with, making perfect rectangles, perfect squares, circles, ovals, stars, straight lines, and polygons. And when we make all of these things, there are some fun keystrokes we can use to get some really cool special effects. So let's get out of here and go into Adobe Illustrator. And I've been playing around with these things, and it's pretty straightforward stuff. Let's start off. In the toolbar, you just click. By default, I believe you'll see the rectangle tool, and if you hold down on that sucker, then you'll see the tools that we're going to cover here in this video. And whenever you see any of these little arrows in the timeline, in the toolbar that is, if you just hold down on it, you'll see more options. And if you come out here to this little arrow right here and click, then it comes out and you have access to these tools all the time. You don't have to hold down and click to select it. So for the rectangle tool, I'm just going to select maybe a yellow color for fill. It has a black stroke. Stroke over here is set at 1 pixel. And to make a rectangle, it's pretty simple. You just drag and make your rectangle. Okay, now something funny kind of happens. Notice this will happen to you a lot in Illustrator. You'll start to make your rectangle, but if you just select the rectangle tool and click and don't drag, then Illustrator will ask you what width and height would you like to set, which can be annoying when that happens. But if you know precisely the width and height of the object that you want to correct, then you can just type something in. Right now we're working with pixels or points, so it's about the same. So if I just type in 400 here by 600 and click OK, there's my rectangle. Okay, perfectly the size that I wanted it to be. And you can do that with any object, but I'm going to delete that. If I go back to the rectangle tool, if I want to make a perfect square, what I would do, I would start to drag. If I hold down the Shift key, it will make a perfect square. And then once you get the square in there, you've got your bounding box, and you can rotate using the bounding box. Or you can go to the corners and resize. Or you can flip this thing horizontal. There's a more precise way to flip horizontal, but that's pretty much the rectangle tool. Let's get rid of the rectangle square tool. The oval tool is pretty much the same. If you want an oval, you just drag like that. If you want a perfect circle, you hold the Shift key down and drag. If you want a 2-inch by 2-inch circle, you click one time, fill in the blanks here, and you're good to go. Okie dokie. So those are pretty straightforward objects to work with. Let's go to the polygon tool. I've never used it. I'm wondering who uses this tool, but okay, this is not the default. I've been playing around with it. With the polygon tool and the star tool, as you drag, if you click the up and down arrow keys, you get more or less sides. And this is really cool if you want a triangle, which is, and I'm just the up arrow key, the down arrow key, and there you go. There you go. Okay, so that's that. That's the polygon tool. Let's go to the star tool. I like the star tool. The star tool to increase the number of points. I'm doing the up arrow key or the down arrow key. Let's see here. Okay, now I'm doing the option key. That I don't know. Okay, the option key, that would be the Alt key on the Mac, I believe. A really fun keystroke that I super enjoy. I'm holding the mouse down, and if I hold the tilde key down on the keyboard, as I drag, it does this. The thing is, if you do this, you have to let go of the mouse first to get the effect. And I like that. I mean, that's really cool. That's the star tool. These are funny because once you do that effect that I just did, well, these things are not grouped. You could group them together so that they stick together, but they're actually now all individual objects. Huh. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Now, a tool that may be of great interest to you, they call it the line segment tool, but I just call it the straight line tool. You just click the line and drag. There you go. If, again, if I click here, it's going to say, well, what length of line would you want? Oh, let's say we want a 400 pixel line, and it's going to ask you what angle do you want it at. Let's make this a 45-degree angle. Perfect. Okay. And you just click, and there you go. Now, when I was teaching in San Francisco, we had about 50 teachers. We all had our specialties. And sometimes we would go on site. I would go to banks on site, Wells Fargo on site, insurance companies on site, and teach their graphic designers. And there were 3 or 4 times when I had to go to architectural firms, and they wanted to know how to draw a straight line in Adobe Illustrator. And you had to imagine they're paying like $400 an hour for this. So I'd go out there and I'd say, okay, I've got like 5 architects standing around. They want to see how to do this. And so I'd say, okay, here you go. What you do is you start to drag the mouse, and then you hold the Shift key down. And that gives you a straight line. Okay. Or if you drag the mouse and you drag downward or diagonal, holding the Shift key down is going to give you a perfect up vertical or horizontal or diagonal straight line, depending on how you drag and where you place your mouse. Now I'm going to do multiple undos by just doing Control Z, Command Z, whatever, whoever you're working on. And I like to do this. This is fun. If I hold the tilde key down, woo, I get this effect. How cool is that? So those are your shape tools. The rectangle tool, the circle tool, the polygonal tool, the star tool, and the straight line tool. Now I'm just curious, after I did that, yeah, these are all separate objects, I think. I'm going to click this one and drag it out. Yeah, all separate objects. Of course, we could group them by just doing this and going Object Group. And now they're all one object that we can select all of them together and drag them around. I hope you enjoyed making shapes in Adobe Illustrator.